Hello everyone and welcome to the first look, and today we'll take a look at this very black box. This is the Dan Clark Audio Noire X. This is the latest version. You can see here, it's Noire X. I purchased it from AV1. You know, they actually had this last copy, so I took it. Now, there's a reason why I keep buying close bags, because I really love the isolation, and modern close bags are actually really good. In the past, it used to be a case where open bags are significantly better, but modern close bags has reached a point where it is actually really enjoyable to listen while still having isolation and not much funky frequency. So obviously, this is something I tried in the shop before I purchased it. It's not cheap, but you know, I just want to show you guys the unboxing and also do a comparative test versus some of the close bags I have and already reviewed in this channel before, to give you guys an understanding how I feel about such headphones. So this is the Dan Clark Audio Noire X. Let's unbox. This is how it looks like inside the box. This is the headphones. Now this is very similar to what I have also for my DCA Stealth. Same thing. And then the headphone itself is well protected. There is a foam in between. Now in the Stealth, they actually gave a plastic piece. I think the foam is just more practical. And then, like all DCA, just pull down and then you unlock the headphone. For DCA, normally you get cables of your choice, and for me, I requested for the single-ended version, and the reason is because I want to use it with my Enleum 23RM. So this one requires a single-ended connection, and I will talk about it later when I try it out. But let's take a close look at the Noire. Now, it is a fingerprint magnet. This shiny part, you can see I touched it a few times, it's terrible already. Other than that, it is very DCA. So overall, nice clamp force. And then there is of course the bands. Now it's not as classy as the Stealth with all the very intricate lining. In fact, let me show you guys. You can see this is how the Stealth looks like. Obviously, the Stealth has slightly cooler band because they use different colors, while the Noire is just pure black. Underneath is also the same thing. You can see underneath the bands. But if not, the headphones on general are the same. They use back the recessed port again, so when you plug it in, it's nicely recessed in, and you know, it doesn't extend additional out from the bottom of the headphones. Now for the inner pads itself, you can see this is pleather, leather, not too sure. While inside is also same thing, pleather, leather, not too sure again, maybe leather, but this is perforated, I noticed that. Interestingly, one side perforated, one side solid. Not sure whether you can see in the camera, but very interesting choice. And then after that, this is a suede. Soft, nice. You know, overall a very decent build quality as with any DCA itself. And I actually love DCA headphones. When I tried it at the shop, I think the fit, similar to the Stealth, was just fantastic. The amount of swivel is quite limited, but you know, because the bands are not like very tight, you can swivel a little bit, and then you can swivel front and back. On general, it just fits perfectly fine on the head. Now, fitting on the cable is also really simple because of these ports. Now, these are my cables from my Stealth, and you can actually fit them nicely on. Same thing, just, you know, twist in, and then twist it in. Very simple to fit on the cables. Now, if you buy the good connectors, they also come out very easily, but I do get the cheap China ones. They are a bit funky. Sometimes you pull them, it doesn't come out, but the good ones are really smooth and very nicely built, really. So that is pretty much it. This is the Noire. As you can see, I overall quite like the design. I personally like DCA design. They fit very nicely on the ear too. Now, I did want to say something is that based on my experience in the shop, how you wear the headphones do affect the sound slightly. Pushing it forward, pushing it back does affect the sound. I'll try it again in this particular video to just confirm the differences. So without wasting time, let me have a listen. It's been some time, I think like 4 weeks. I purchased it, and due to moving and stuff, I didn't really try it out. So let's try this out. So I'm using my Sennheiser M9 Plus now. This has been discontinued, but I really love the sound of the M9 Plus because it's like this very clear yet warm sound because of the AKM, quad AKM, and it's very accurate, and the amplifier just gives this slightly warm tone, yet still overall a very enjoyable, precise and clean sound. Together with the Noire, it is like this very slightly brighter, but very clean, relatively smooth sound. There is a bit of sibilance for me in certain tracks with the Noire, but overall I think that everything was just so nice, so clean, and so neat. That's how I would describe the sound. It's still very exciting, and that's the important part, with all this cleanliness, neatness. What I need is that all the frequencies and their relevant instruments are always correct sounding. Like, bass just feels thumpy and nice, neat, literally I'll call it. While when you enter the mids, the vocals are very clear, very airy if it's needed, and then the instruments there are very clean, very precise if you ask me, very you can easily identify them, they do not mix around. The separation was really good. And then when you enter the treble, everything is just really clean and clear. No mushiness, no squeakiness, no overly hot. Of course, slightly sibilance, as I said just now, slight sibilance. But other than that, I think that it is a very clean, clear, slightly bright, exciting, yet still retain a lot of the punchiness of the bass, and a vocals that is very airy and just very, I think, big. I wouldn't say it's powerful, big, yes, but very airy, very light. This is a very interesting effect that normally I will usually say it belongs more to open back headphones, but the Noire gets kind of near the open back headphones, but with a closed back, of course, it does suffer from the openness of sound. You can still tell it's a closed back. When you wear it, it just doesn't feel as open. There is some limit to the sound stage and the overall air of the sound, but everything else is like very close to an open back, but in a closed back environment. Personally, I think this is really awesome rendition. In fact, it's so good at the shop, I actually purchased it. But this is the first look, right? So let me compare with another headphone I have, which is something I recently reviewed. Now this is the Fiio FT1. Now you may be wondering, why am I comparing something so cheap versus, this is like 5 times this price, or is it 4 times? I think in Singapore it's about 4 times price. But this is awesome, really awesome. I mean, check my previous review out. The FT1 at the sound quality level can easily play and fight against any of the high ends and hold its own in certain parameters. So let's compare them, and really, what's the difference? Should you pay 4 times the price for this? What do you get? Do you get a different sound signature? Is it better? I'm here to find out. Now I'm using this Sennheiser M9 Plus to compare them, and it's quite significant. What's the difference? I mean, I don't even need to try many tracks. It's outwardly different. Firstly, the FT1 is definitely warmer in sound, right? It's warmer. Secondly, soundstage wise, the Noire is just bigger. It's just bigger in sound. Then when it comes to the excitement factor, this has a lot of low-end excitement, a lot of rumble, a lot of power in the lows, while this has a lot of excitement in the highs. The energy in the Noire X is higher than the energy in the FT1 when it comes to mids and highs, but at the low, the FT1 is just rumbling and shaking. It has a lot of lower grunt power. Depending on the singer itself, like for Ado, this is like really nice. It's like pushing in the lows, really punchy kind of power. I don't know how to explain it, but one is the low grunt, the rumble. The other one is the high energy, the electrifying sound. Different type of energy, but it's quite significant between both of them. Now, when it comes to the clarity itself, I would say as a Noire X takes it, it is clearer end to end, right? But when it comes to the dynamism of the sound, I think both of them are very equivalent, just on slightly different frequencies. So when it comes to the various frequency itself, the FT1 beats it in the lows in terms of its quantity, satisfaction, and I would say as the overall punchiness. It really hits harder on the FT1. The Noire X does beat it in control in the lows, and in the mids and highs, it's just better. It has more clarity, more control. The overall tuning is on the lighter and brighter side. Especially at the highs itself, it is very crystal clear, and I would say as very distinct when you hear the various instruments come into play. Which is a better headphone? I would say it depends, from the technicality standpoint, I think that the Noire X is better. But if you're looking at the fun factor wise, it depends on what kind of fun you like. If you like the higher energy, then I would say the Noire X is better. If you like the lower energy, the FT1 is actually better. In terms of its tuning, this is like a warmer, smoother tuning. I think it has less fatigue than the Noire X. But the Noire X has this very nice, airy, bright excitement. For female vocals especially, it's fantastic. If it's anime songs that sing on the higher frequencies, it's fantastic. But for Ado, I would say as the FT1 is more fun because it's a bit of rock style of sound. The FT1 actually does it slightly better. Now this is of course with the FT1, which is very cheap, but really good. The tuning is just fantastic on the FT1. What about something more expensive, right? What about if I compare it to the Stealth? Now, let's have a listen and let me tell you guys what I feel about it. So I've heard the Stealth versus the Noire X, and I will just tell you that the Stealth, it's bigger in sound, but it's a bit more flat, it's a bit more tamed. It is not as exciting. And also, if you ask me, the Noire X does have a higher perceived clarity, even though the Stealth do render everything. But the soundstage of the Stealth is just significantly bigger. It is more relaxed, but it is just a much more bigger expanse in terms of sound. And if you are looking for a big sounding, natural, without any form of like stress, sibilance, and overall a very neutral tone, the Stealth gives you that. But if you are looking for any form of excitement, skip the Stealth. The Noire X is just better. It is more punchy, it is more exciting up top. Overall, I think it is a nicer headphone to listen than the Stealth. Sadly, even though the Stealth costs 5 times more. The Stealth is just a nice headphone if you are looking to relax. Yeah, because it's just big, it's smooth. Yeah. And when it comes to the bass, no fight. The Noire X is just the edge of the bass itself is just more dynamic and punchy, while the Stealth is just, I have a bass, it is accurate, it is clean, but it is nowhere fun to listen. This is the Stealth. So overall, if you ask me between the Stealth and Noire X, I would take the Noire X when it comes to sound quality, even though the Stealth does have a way bigger sound stage, and I think it does have a smoother sound too. So for my very last test, I'll try with the amplifier, the Enleum here. Now I'll give the advantage of balance into the M9 Plus, while going into the Enleum is going to be single-ended, and I want to see will M actually improve the sound of the Noire X, even though single-ended is supposedly inferior, but it's probably not exactly true. And then also want to try the current output on the Enleum, see how much does it affect the Noire X. Now trying the Noire X with the Enleum is a very interesting outcome. Now let's talk about Enleum in two ways. Firstly, we are talking about the standard amplification mode and then the current drive mode versus the M9 Plus. Now the M9 Plus is very competent obviously, but with the Enleum I did notice that firstly there's slightly less sibilance. Secondly, I feel that the overall body of the sound is slightly better. And then when it comes to the bass energy, I think the Enleum also is a little bit more competent than the M9 Plus when it comes to the sound. It just feels more tight and more punchy. Overall, I do think that when it comes to the single-ended operation, the Enleum is a slightly nicer sounding output than the balance from the M9 Plus. It really depends. I mean, if you are looking for a little bit more clarity, a bit more high sound, I think the M9 Plus does give you that. But when it comes to the Enleum, it just gives you that slightly less sibilance, but more body and a slightly nicer bass sound from the Enleum itself in single-ended standard amplification mode. Now, in the current amplification mode, things change quite a bit. Firstly, I did notice that the amount of high energy drops a little bit. The whole Noire X that I talked about just now, the energy up top gets a bit lost. You lose a bit of those high level energy that makes the Noire X exciting. So it gets less exciting, right? But it does give a significantly, noticeably bigger soundstage, and it also gives a little bit more bass energy. I mean, the very low bass energy, sub-bass level type of energy. I mean, if you like a bigger sound, but at the expense of a little bit of highs, yet you get more bass energy, I think the Noire X with the Enleum on current mode is pretty good. But that being said, if you don't want to lose the high energy excitement, I think stick to standard amplification. It sounds better. So just want to sum it all up is that the Noire X on the Enleum does sound better in the standard amplification mode. It just gives, to me, a more filled out sound with a little bit more bass control and a slightly smoother experience. While with the Enleum in its current output, you lose some of the highs, but you get a bigger soundstage and more bass energy in the very low bass part of things. So it's a trade-off, and that may be something that some of you may like, some of you may not like, so it depends on you. Overall, I do think that the Enleum is a very interesting amplification for the Noire X, and it does show that the Noire X does respond to amplification itself. Does it mean it's always better? Not exactly, because if you have seen my other review, the Enleum does render slightly different from other amps. So it depends on your own personal taste. Some amps may sound better, some amps may not sound better compared to whatever you have in the M9 Plus. Just want to say that. So I just want to close this review by just saying that the Noire X is a fantastic close back. It is one of the clearest close back you can buy. It has a very exciting top end, very clean, open sound for a close back. It is very enjoyable, very exciting, very clear. And it still has that very clean bass. No muffleness, no boominess, just very clean, punchy bass. Very dynamic, very exciting. Overall, I think this is a very, very well executed close back headphone. And it costs about 1,000 plus Sing dollars. This makes it one of the more affordable, good close back headphones you can buy. Personally, I think that this is better than the Stealth. And it says a lot. I mean, you are paying lesser for something that actually sound more fun, more dynamic, and overall more enjoyable than the Stealth itself. But that said, there is a competitor on the low end of pricing, not low end of sound quality, and that is the Fiio FT1. That headphone gives a total different take of things, and if you are looking for more bass energy, the FT1 does it better. But if you're looking for a technically better headphone with better clarity and of course more energy in the mids and highs, the Noire X is for you. In fact, I think this is one of the best sounding headphone that you can ever get in the market for close backs. I would say as the Noire X and the FT1 has just brought the whole close back competition a notch higher. In the past, it used to be a case where you have to spend $3,000, $4,000 at least to the E3 level or to some of the ZMF close backs to get a very decently good close back that is somewhat competitive with open back headphones. No more. FT1 and the Noire X has now brought this price down to the low $1,000 range and in the hundreds range to compare with close backs. FT1 and the Noire X has brought good competition to open backs at the lower price brackets. And I think that is a big deal, because not everybody wants others to hear what they're listening, right? But there's no options in the past. Today, there is a Noire X for very good clarity, very nice air, or you have the FT1 for a lot of bass energy, and both of them are just supremely well tuned. And that's about it for today. This is the first look of the DCA Noire X. I think it's a fantastic headphone, and it is a good alternative to any closed backs or even open back headphones out there. You should try it out. If you enjoy it, you have saved yourself a lot of money, and you get a decently good closed back headphones. But once again, do try out also the FT1, because it is a very different take with a very good tuning, and depending on your preference, you may actually save even more money with it. But the DCA is a superior headphone when it comes to technicalities. And I would like to thank you again for watching this video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.